Hello again, everyone. This is the first time that I have done a back-to-back stream on live YouTube here. And if you have not seen the last video that I did an hour ago, that was on how chemo was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So after you're done watching this one, then you can go on over and check out the one that I just did. So this is a video that I've been watching for a really long time. I feel like having gone through the stuff that I have gone through this year has given me a lot of perspective on life and has really, I don't know how else to say it, but it has really like trained me mentally. It has made me a stronger person. It has given me a lot more grit and mental fortitude. And I really think that going through hard stuff has the power to do that if you allow it to. Um, these things can either make or break you, and you do have a choice in that matter. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today. So for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Amanda, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer back in February, right at the beginning as the pandemic was getting going. And so this year has been all kinds of crazy for us. On top of just the pandemic by itself, which everyone is dealing with. So yeah, and just in life before that, life in general, we've dealt with our fair share of difficult things as well. My son is on the autism spectrum. I'd say that all three of our kids are gifted to some degree, and there's a whole bunch of challenges that come with that. I should probably do an update on all three of my kids at some point, just to let you guys know how things are going with them. And they're going quite well, but things are definitely having 2E kids or twice exceptional kids can be very intense at times, even during normal non-pandemic times. And so we have all of that going on top of, getting a breast cancer diagnosis, dealing with the pandemic, and all of these things. And so I feel, and then I also, all these things keep coming up in my life, and I haven't had the chance to talk about how I also have an Ehlers-Danlos syndrome diagnosis, which I will eventually make a video about. And I also have an ADHD diagnosis, which I also got right around the time I got my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome diagnosis. So lots of stuff that's gone on. And what I'm going through is very different than I'm sure what you're going through. But it's similar, I think, for all people in that if you are a human, you are going to go through difficult things. It's just inevitable. It's just kind of, there's going to be good and bad. And that is just kind of the nature of the human experience. And that is the first thing that I wanted to talk about, is just talking about, or is just always having the mentality knowing that you can't expect that life is always going to be sunshine and rainbows all the time, because it's just not going to. If you are a human, you are going to experience both good and bad, sometimes simultaneously, all at the same time. And that's just what this crazy thing we call life is. It's just this crazy mix of the most beautiful, wonderful, miraculous things and some of the most heartbreaking, difficult, really hard, certain word that I won't say on the internet. So yeah, I think just making sure that you keep that perspective and not expecting that life is going to be easy all the time, just having that expectation is the first step in, being able to overcome and get through hard stuff. Because if you are thinking, oh, my life should be easy all the time, things should always go as I want them to, they're not going to. They're just not. I think that that's a huge thing, is just expecting that the unexpected is going to happen sometimes. Yeah, none of us saw this pandemic coming. I did not see a cancer diagnosis at 35 coming. Like, these things you have to plan for the unexpected. And I think I talked about in my very first video when I was diagnosed with cancer about, we have some friends who lost a child. When she was about a year old, she had some very severe health issues going on. And I remember reading her blog at the time, and how she, for a while was saying, why me, God? Why me? Why am I experiencing all of this kind of suffering when all of the people around me are not? And then she got to thinking, why not me? And ever since I read that little bit, it has totally shifted my mentality. Even before I've gone through really difficult stuff, just thinking, why not me? The world is a broken place, and bad things do happen, and none of us, not one single human being, is exempt from going through difficult things. So just having that mentality of why not me? What makes, there's nothing that makes me or anyone more special than anyone else that, makes you entitled to having an easygoing life your entire life. It's just not going to happen. So just having that knowledge and that awareness just puts you in a better mind frame to begin with. Not that you're just like all doom and gloom all the time and expecting the worst to happen all the time, but just understanding that there's this balance in life, that there's going to be good and there's going to be bad, and you have to expect both. You just have to. So when the difficult things do come along, you're not so floored and shocked, like, why me? Like, why is this awful thing happening to me? You realize that, oh, this is just kind of the course of events. Like, life is going to throw you curveballs. Things are going to be difficult. And if you are expecting that will happen in some capacity in your life, it's a lot easier when those things do come along. So that was the first thing that I was going to talk about. And then in terms of dealing with your emotions, because we do have to deal with difficult emotions when we have difficult circumstances in our lives. And staying positive does not mean that you are pretending like bad things aren't happening, or pretending like something isn't hard. These things are hard. And I think that you have to lean into that, and you have to fully acknowledge that, yes, things are hard, and accept that. There's a level of acceptance that you have to have, that what I'm going through is hard and difficult, and that is okay. And what I feel is okay. Whatever emotions come along is okay. And that is hugely important. I've done therapy on and off throughout the years, and I feel like some of these techniques that I've picked up from doing therapy, and I'm so grateful. Everybody should go to therapy. I don't care who you are. Like, if you're a human being, like, everybody will have times in their lives when therapy is beneficial, because it's just, sometimes you need just a little extra boost, a little extra help to work through stuff. And I think it is the healthiest thing ever to go to therapy. So I'm really grateful that I had done that previously in my life, and that I got some of these tools that I was able to use now while going through some of this difficult stuff. So that's the key thing, is allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, and accept whatever you're feeling. And it's okay to have negative emotions. Choosing a positive attitude does not mean that you are denying your negative emotions. It's okay to feel sadness. It's okay to feel anger. It's okay to feel doubt. It's okay to feel yada, 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 whatever it is that you're feeling, depression, anxiety. I have experienced all of these things very much so in my life. In fact, I made a whole video about how I have had a huge struggle with anxiety my whole life. I will put those videos here in the cards once I can post process this video. Um, and so that is another thing, is acknowledge when you are struggling and get help, either by going to therapy, and or getting on medication if you need to. I talked about that in my anxiety videos. I am on an anxiety medication, and it has been life changing. I got on it when I was pregnant with my third child. And being on anxiety medication, I honestly don't know why it took me so long to get on anxiety medication. I was for a long time on do everything the natural way, do everything the natural way. And sometimes the more natural way of doing things doesn't work. And then it's okay to try doing things a more conventional way. And you know what? That's what worked for me. And I am so thankful. um, I was on sertraline for a couple of years, and then once I got my cancer diagnosis, they actually switched me to Venlafaxine, which I think is the generic of Effexor, and sertraline is the generic for Zoloft. So yeah, I am now on Venlafaxine or Effexor, and they actually oftentimes prescribe that with the medication that I am on, the estrogen blocker medication that I'm on for my cancer anyway, because it helps mitigate some of the side effects from that. So anyway, both medications have worked beautifully for me. And that's not to say that it numbs me or that I like don't feel anything anymore. I still feel all the emotions. I still feel all the feels. And I still even feel anxiety sometimes. But it just brings it down several notches so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming that you can't handle it. It makes it feel like you can handle it. And that's huge. And I am such a huge proponent of, if you need to go on medication, go on medication. I feel like this is one of these tools. Medicine is a tool that um, God has given us for us to use if we use it responsibly and in the right way and everything. So yeah, if you need medication, go on medication, antidepressant, anti-anxiety, see a counselor, work through your mental health stuff, work through that inner work. It's so important. And being self-aware, I think, is a huge thing as well. I think that is the single most important thing in maturity and growth and change, is having self-awareness and being able to acknowledge when you are wrong. If you were wrong about something, being able to acknowledge that, and just being able to be really honest, how to manage that and how to work with it. So then that brings me to, let's see, what should I talk about next? For me, I have a faith. I consider myself to be a Christ follower, and I believe that there is a lot of different ways that people understand a higher power, and I am supportive of however that is for you. And whatever that may be, tap into that. Tap into that divine power. That has been enormous, enormous in me being able to find the strength that I need to get through this stuff, and to have the strength that I need to remain positive. It is because I couldn't do that entirely on my own. There is no way in heck that I could do that entirely on my own. you grow and you gain that, you access that power, you access that higher power, and it gives you strength that you don't have on your own. And when you are going through hard stuff, you tap into that. You tap into that power, and it will carry you through. It really will. It gives you the strength, and it gives you that mental fortitude and that grit, like I was talking about. It, you know, I really, I really attribute, finding that strength in myself to finding God in myself, if that makes sense. God living in me, if that makes sense. That part of me where God resides. Um, and so, whatever faith looks like for you, tap into that, because that, I can't emphasize that enough. People say, well, how do you stay positive? And I say, well, it's not all me. It's not all me. I am tapping into that higher power, man. Because it is, I mean, the world is heavy, full of heavy stuff sometimes. And any individual human being is not by themselves strong enough to handle this stuff. God is. God is strong enough to handle this stuff. So we give it to God. God gives us the strength that we need. So prayer, for me, prayer has been enormous. And all of the prayer of you guys has been enormous. And I am so thankful. The prayer of the people in my family, in my community, in my village. Prayer is enormous. Whatever prayer looks like for you. It doesn't have to be a big, grandiose thing. You don't even have to have the right words when you're praying, but sometimes it's just really simple. God, give me the strength. God, help me to see myself the way you see me. That is a mantra that I say to myself every day. God, help me to see myself the way you see me. And when I see that perspective, it's so much easier to be kind to yourself, and it's so much easier to give yourself grace, and it's so much easier to remain positive and see the good in yourself as well, and not beat yourself up and not get totally dragged down by all of the heaviness and the hardships in the world. So, yeah, tap into God, man. It is life changing. It really is. So that brings me to my next thing is, I have in my little thumbnail here is choose what you nurture. I am going to pull up a little thing that I wrote on Facebook a little bit back here, and I'm just going to read it to you. And it says, choose what you nurture. You may not be able to choose all of your circumstances, but you can choose your attitude and your response. What you nurture will grow. The grass is greener where you water it. So if you choose to nurture a negative mindset, your life will reap negativity. If you choose to nurture a positive mindset, your life will reap positivity. If you allow God to be your gardener and you fertilize the soil, water, and weed out the negativity, you will reap the fruits of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. You really will. So you do have a choice in the matter of your mental state. Even in the midst of really hard stuff, you have a choice. And that is what I just keep reiterating to people when they're like, how do you stay so positive? I'm like, you have a choice. You really do. I could choose to just wallow in my sorrow and say, why me? This is so awful. But you know what? Negativity is a power in itself, and negativity can drag you down. Negativity can manifest in your body. It can make healing harder. It can increase the cortisol stress hormone in your body. All these things that you don't want. And you have the choice. You have the choice to choose which thoughts in your head you're nurturing, choose which actions that you are taking in your life, choosing to tap into God. Like I said, choosing these things that you nurture. You have the control to choose what you nurture. And it really is, the grass is greener where you water it, instead of just sitting there longingly looking at the neighbor's green grass over there. Get your butt outside and water your grass. There is an element of taking responsibility and control over your own life with the help of God and God's guidance. And you really can't sit there and have a victim mentality, because I really think a victim mentality is destructive. And that's not to, like, if you are a victim of something, that this is totally different than like victim shaming. This is not victim shaming. Like, we need to acknowledge when people are actually victims of things, right? But it's choosing not to stay there and acknowledging the things that you do have control over and taking control of those things that you do have control over. And perhaps that's one of the other things. My grandmother always had the Serenity Prayer on her wall, and that's one of my favorite prayers as well. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. They use that for Alcoholics Anonymous for a reason, because that is another difficult thing that people have to overcome sometimes. And I think it's just a good life prayer. We have to know the difference between what we have control over and what we don't. And we can't get hung up on the things that we don't have control over. But we can take control of things we do have control over. And that is huge. So the things we do have control over, we got to take charge of. Those things we got to take charge of. So yeah, I think those are the main ways that I stay in a positive mindset, and even going through really difficult things. If you do those things, you can stay healthy up here and in here. Another big thing that really helps me in that process is music. I am really oriented towards music. I actually just made a playlist on Spotify called Kicking Cancer to the Curb. I actually just changed the name of it and made it public. So if you guys want to see it, you can. It's now called Overcoming Hard Times. So if you want to listen to some of the music that I have been listening to, you can go onto Spotify and look up the playlist Overcoming Hard Times, and I think you should be able to see it and listen to it. So music is definitely huge. If I need a mood boost, I will go and listen to that playlist, or I'll listen to worship music. I'll listen to something, or if I just kind of like needing a pick-me-up, I'll listen to some upbeat dance music, Music can do a lot to help as well. So anyway, I think that's all I had to say in all of this. And I don't know if you guys had any comments that you wanted to make or any questions that you wanted to ask. But I just wanted to put that out there, because I really feel like it's, the things that I have been learning and experiencing and growing in, especially this year, in the last several years, actually, last 10 years, really, I have grown so much in my life. And those are just some of the things that I have learned along the way. And I hope that it's helpful for you guys. The way I do things may not be exactly the way everybody else does things, but this is what has worked for me in maintaining a positive outlook and a positive attitude. So, yeah, I hope it's helpful for you going through this crazy time that we're going through right now, this unprecedented time during this pandemic. Every human being on earth is affected by that right now. So, and it's, for my fellow parents who are watching this, trying to figure out what to do with your kids with school and, figuring out work. There's a lot of people experiencing economic hardship right now. There's just a lot of crazy, crazy stuff going on right now. So I hope that this is helpful in helping you get through that stuff. So I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.